Is it too early to say that Daniels are geniuses? The music video directors turned indie film sensations Daniel Kwan and Daniel Scheinert feel like they just materialized out of nowhere, but after their latest generation-defining film Everything Everywhere All at Once, anything they come up with next will arrive with the anticipation level of a $200 million blockbuster. With their contagious joy and distinctly handcrafted charm, they represent the vanguards of a new generation of auteurs that combine the postmodern movie blender sensibility of the 90s with the scrappy DIY sensibility of the YouTube era. Though Everything Everywhere is being rightly hailed as a masterpiece, and in some circles the culmination of cinema, which sounds a bit ominous, Swiss Army Man, their debut, should be considered in that conversation as well. They're both miracle films in their own ways, vastly different, but with the same filthy, juvenile, weird, sincere, beautiful, hilarious, radically empathetic, and disarmingly profound heart. Beneath the farting corpses, googly eyes, and hot dog hands, Daniels have managed to create a complete and coherent philosophical framework for the world. Swiss Army Man serves as a primer for the form and function of our world and all of its vast complexity and pain, and Everything Everywhere All at Once shows us how to find meaning within it. Kwan and Scheinert seem like nice guys. Their interviews are effervescent, they're kind, weird, and engaging. They ping-pong off each other like true friends. They met in college and started out making music videos and short films with tiny budgets where they amassed an impressive and varied bag of DIY tricks. They have a plethora of inventive and wild videos under their belt, and most notably Don't Stop and Houdini by Foster the People, My Machines by Battles, and the infamous destruction-filled hump fest that is DJ Snake and Lil Jon's Turn Down for What? Daniels are the YouTube generation's Michel Gondry or Spike Jonze. Their videos and films are inventive, delightful, and heavily reliant on a compelling combination of practical effects sweetened with motion graphic wizardry. But unlike Jones, Gondry, and the countless other 90s music video and commercial directors that got a bite at the studio apple, Daniels have almost exclusively worked with limited budgets and smaller projects that weren't backed by big record label money. Their music videos are all wildly different, but they have one thing in common. They look like they were a blast to make. That's by design. Fun seems to be the first mission of a Daniels project. They have a desire to craft joy in both process and product. This priority leads to a lot of creative goofing. They try new things not because of some grand, elaborate, indecipherable artistic vision. Rather, they just think, what if a song made a guy hump the ground so hard he plowed through to the next floor below him? This ethos of joy extends to their features. Everything feels crafted to elicit the most fun day on set. Since their budgets are always seemingly smaller than their ambitions, most of their effects are done in camera. This allowed, for instance, Everything Everywhere All at Once to have a VFX team of only 9 people, 2 of whom were the directors. They do that a lot. Not in an auteur one-man band sort of way. This isn't like Robert Rodriguez appearing as every other name in one of his credit sequences either. They know how and when to delegate. They're consummate collaborators. There's a true sense of camaraderie here, and you can tell from set videos and crew stories. They are driven storytellers and craftsmen that are willing to take on any role to make sure the movie gets made. Their all-hands-on-deck DIY approach leads them to look beyond the traditional Hollywood apparatus for talent as well, which helps separate a Daniels film from typical Hollywood fare. For instance, through their music video connections, Daniels tapped Manchester Orchestra members Andy Hull and Robert McDowell to provide the delicate, soaring a cappella score for Swiss Army Man. On top of that, Everything Everywhere's inventive, hyperkinetic fight choreography was done by Andy and Brian Lee, a pair of self-taught brothers with no formal choreography or stunt training, who got famous on YouTube for crafting ludicrously complex fight sequences with their friends. Daniels collect a scrappy community of driven and unexpected collaborators and creatives, who all speak the same effusive language of love for cinema and filmmaking. A kind of love that leads to big risks and formal experimentation. The kind of love that allows them to create works that span genre, tone, and form. They see cinema as a true multimedia format. If you're going to make a movie, make the most movie. If they're going to give you $3 million, spend all $3 million on the screen. And if you get 30 next time, you have to make 10 times the movie you made before. With all of this energy, it's baffling to realize that Daniels have only made 2 feature films and a handful of bizarre, lovely shorts.
Hey, is it not in there? Hold on.
Wait.
Maybe it's in these pockets.
That being said, it's obvious they've already carved out an incisive and distinctive niche for themselves in Hollywood. Their first feature, Swiss Army Man, won the Director's Prize at Sundance, and if the buzz holds, Everything Everywhere seems to be a lock for a Best Picture nomination, and maybe even a win. And if it doesn't at least get a nomination, what the hell are we even doing as an industry? It's been some time since a creative force this fully formed has been so instantly launched to legitimacy, and it'll be a joy to see how their voice develops over the span of their career together. Their films are defined by a beautiful looseness that stretches suspension of disbelief to its bleeding edge. It's a style that's locked in a constant, delicate dance between a vibe of shaggy spontaneity and the meticulous planning that has to go into every frame. Everything feels handmade and tangible, from the practical action to the hyper-specific props, costumes, and production design that define the borders of these worlds that sit right outside of our own. The camera is moving, the aspect ratio is changing, the tone is varying from scene to scene, from line to line even. The genres are endlessly recombining, but all of these disparate moments somehow work. Through all this noise, they cohere. They're spinning a warehouse full of plates and keeping them all up in the air both technically and narratively. But there's more to be had than just that shock of admiration at the sheer ambition of a Daniels film. Beyond being impressive to behold, the movies just work. There's a hyper-contemporary quality to the humor that's also effortlessly timeless and singular in its sweet, silly crudeness. There are plenty of shock moments, but never solely for shock's sake. This surface-level juvenility and crassness can be initially off-putting. Selling general audiences on "watch this movie about a farting corpse and we'll promise you'll have a good time" is basically an impossible pitch. But it's a facade designed to lower your defenses and make you more receptive to the true thread that ties a Daniels film together. Deep humanity, radical empathy, unexpected poignancy, characters that are in intense and unbelievable situations, but who are so profoundly human, so specifically drawn that you can't help but relate to them, root for them, even if they're worst. Taken as a whole, Swiss Army Man and Everything Everywhere All at Once's philosophical framework serves as a potent explanation of the world as it exists, as well as an instructional guide for how to survive it. These two films speak together to articulate Daniels' simple, wise worldview, one of wry existentialism and conversation with absurdism that's buoyed by an acceptance and love for all of the disparate, confusing, and mismatched parts that form the everything bagel that is our lives. Swiss Army Man starts with the stark, bleak, blank state of abject solitude, literally one man alone on a blasted, empty island in the middle of the Pacific. Using that solitude as a building block, it seeks to recreate the world through the eyes of one lonely man.
What is life?
Okay. This is you. This is your body. And that's where your brain is, and that's where you're going to remember something. Humans have evolved over millions and millions of years to be this way. And we do all this stuff because it helps us survive.
It accomplishes this brilliantly, sketching the world in all of its infinite complexities, beauties, heartaches, and mundanities in the image of Daniels. A little bit twee, a little bit crude, and a lot bit earnest. The film defines its states of being: loneliness and togetherness, nothingness and somethingness, normalness and weirdness. It posits that one cannot be a complete person without self-acceptance, and that finding others who accept you and share your struggle is vital to that journey. Weirdness alone is an anomaly. Weirdness together is love. It's community. This ability for us to create bonds is at the tender, flatulent heart of Swiss Army Man. Manny and Hank are both trash in a way, and they survive on the garbage they find in the woods where they're lost. They're outcasts living on what has been cast out. We can learn a lot about a society from what it throws away, what it doesn't want anymore, what it casually ignores or leaves behind. Using these discarded pieces of the world, Hank recreates his understanding of society for Manny. It's both imperfect and idealized, informed by the mores and anxieties taught to him by his parents. Manny, the blank slate, serves as a necessary foil to these confusing and harmful systems, questioning their purpose from a place of wise naivete. Hank serves as both friend and parent to Manny, showing him the way the world works, but also opening up to him, finally learning to be vulnerable around another person. By articulating what it is about the world that causes him pain, he's able to begin to overcome it. And by showing Manny what it means to be alive, Hank learns how to live again, too. But the film isn't interested in just the microcosm of Hank and Manny's world. It's interested in the context as well, the macrocosm. A hypothesis without challenge or test is just a question, a hypothetical. Divorced of the context of Hank's trauma, his journey of self-discovery and healing is alarming, creepy, and most likely criminal. It isn't, well, normal. It's weird. Daniels don't shy away from the complicated emotions. We're not always offered simple endings. When that context is revealed, the world judges Hank in the way that he feared he'd be judged. But his experience with Manny has changed him. One could be cynical and say that the end of Swiss Army Man examines someone who has fallen so far into a delusion that he can no longer separate fantasy from reality. But the text of the film simply doesn't support that reading. By extending the empathy to Manny that he wishes was shown to him, he finally learns to live with himself. And how do we show this sea change? Farts, obviously. Hank feels comfortable farting in front of others now. He won't bottle everything up anymore, sometimes quite literally. By allowing others into his world, he can make them see what he sees. And he does. Manny comes back to life. He proves his powers. We end on a note of pure awe, and we learn that we cannot survive on our own. At the very least, we can't thrive. Life is a search for friendship, understanding, companionship. It's about finding one person that understands your pain, and then getting that one person to help you carry it. And in turn, you help carry their pain. Sometimes that's a metaphor. Sometimes it's literal. With Swiss Army Man, it's a little bit of both. Everything Everywhere All at Once takes that same struggle for meaning and understanding and tests it against the chaotic, hostile meaninglessness of a vast and infinite multiverse. But this chaos sharpens their philosophic resolve into something coherent and actionable.
We can do whatever we want. Nothing matters.
Everything Everywhere's philosophy rests on that eternal absurdist question. If we know for a fact that our lives are meaningless, how do we respond? If nothing matters, does that lead to despair or freedom? We even have the three main responses to absurdism in our characters. Jobu Tupaki wants to end her suffering through suicide. Jobu's followers treat her as a god and find religious meaning in her multiversal powers. Her foes see her as an all-powerful enemy that must be destroyed. This war gives them meaning. But Evelyn's journey of awakening leads her to something more complete, more human, a stubborn and defiant insistence on trying to find meaning in the meaninglessness, on finding connection in the random cosmos, on learning to be more like her husband Waymond, who is always kind, even when the world is cruel. Sure, it's told through silly, Matrix-inspired action, googly eyes, hot dog fingers, and suspiciously anatomical auditing trophies, but its message is the ultimate empathy play. If everyone in every infinite universe has lived every conceivable life, then you have, at some point, lived everyone else's life, experienced the same pain, the same heartache, the same loneliness. We are all unified by meaninglessness, by nothingness. And that's the basic building block of empathy, of community. The callousness of absurdism rolls away into a kinder existentialism that is informed by this deeply radical empathy. Daniels embraced this empathy with joyfully reckless abandon. Every person in this world deserves some kind of love, or at the very least, some kind of understanding. Even in The Death of Dick Long, which isn't technically a Daniels film since only Daniel Scheinert directed, but that's neither here nor there, this is pushed to an extreme case. Who is redeemable? Can someone who has done something truly unforgivable ever deserve understanding or compassion? Their answer is always a universal yes, and the results are often as heartbreaking as they are hilarious. But that's the joy in a Daniels film. Watching the truly absurd, bizarre, or upsetting become suddenly and shockingly relatable. And we don't need a 2-hour video or several 300-page academic compilations to explain the philosophy of Everything Everywhere All at Once or Swiss Army Man. Unlike their headier influences, Daniels are far more populist, some glorious mashup of Kurt Vonnegut and John Waters. They don't get off on pulling obscure references to Baudrillard, Camus, or Kierkegaard hoping you'll understand. This isn't a quiz, it's not homework. It's an invitation that starts as a bet. A bet that if they can make you care about a farting corpse, they can make you care about yourself. And then your neighbor. And then, maybe, everything. Everywhere. All at once. Thank you. Thank you all for watching Too Many Tapes. Please like this video, subscribe to my channel, and hit the bell icon to get updates for when I upload videos. Do you think Everything Everywhere has a shot at Best Picture this year? I think Kwan is a shoo-in for Best Supporting Actor, but I may be deluding myself. Let me know in the comments! If you want to help out a small YouTube creator, consider donating $1 or more to my Patreon. I spend every single dollar I earn on the show, so thank you so much for making all of this possible. If you donate $50 or more a month, like Cammy, you're Jobu Tapaki, because you have immense and impressive power and I both respect and fear you. Or you're Chase Smith, which makes you Rakakuni, because we're a family. Culinarily. If you donate $20 or more a month, you're from a universe where everybody has hot dogs for fingers, and you get to have your name in the credits in an enormous font like NATO Kitsch. For $10 or more a month, you're filled with magical flatulence, and your name gets to be pretty big in the credits too. And for $5 a month, you're Wayman Wong, because you get early access to my videos, and because, in another life, I would have really liked just doing laundry and taxes with you. Thank you all again for watching, and I'll see you next time on Too Many Tapes.
Romantic, isn't
it? Spaghetti baby noodle boy. Spaghetti baby noodle boy.